Good day, everybody. Oh boy, here we go again. Another day, another bad crafted law. So, another one's been going around a little bit, and there's a link for the full article in the description below. But for a shorthand version of this, but another law has reared its ugly head that sort of implies some weird furry shenanigans. But this is a little different than the Oklahoma one that we did in the last video. But if you want to watch that one, it's up there in the cards above. This time we're going to Montana. Yes, Montana. That great northern hills place where Sonic had to run away from to go to San Francisco, apparently. We don't know why, but apparently we're about to find out today. So, ladies and gentlemen, this law is a little bit different than the one in Oklahoma. It is a civil law. It's not really a criminal law. Well, technically, the one in Oklahoma is sort of a civil law as well. It was basically saying how people can utilize the system and when they can use it. This one's a little bit different. This one is an amendment to a law that already exists on the books. And the law basically has to deal with the dealings of the government with those people who are underage, and basically what parents can do should venues and private institutions that are more for adult entertainment purposes basically don't do their due diligence in order to make sure minors don't go in the door, people who are underage, etc. So the interesting thing about this law, though, and the thing that ties this to furry news, is the wording at the very end in some of the amendments. Particularly when it comes to a word that the bill creates called transspeciesism. You heard that right. Transspeciesism. Which isn't a word according to my Google thing as I was writing up the article. It was giving that word a big red squiggly underline as if the word doesn't exist. And no, it doesn't exist. It does not exist. But this law has used that word. But the worst thing is that the word is used in the law, but the word is not defined in the law. Which is a problem because you need to define the parts, and we're going to go over that in a bit. Now, if you remember from my Oklahoma one, from that Oklahoma video, the bill started off with defining everything. It started at the top with defining everything. Montana likes to do things differently, and apparently they put their glossary and their definitions at the bottom of the bill, which is kind of annoying to me because, to me, as a computer scientist and a mathematician, I always like to define things up top so that people know what they're reading when they're actually reading the dang thing. But let's go into this bill right here, right now. So get out your fun times here. This is actually not a very long bill or amendment. It's not a very long bill in general. It's like 4 or 5 pages, which is appreciated for its succinctness. But basically, it's also a civil law. It's more for a lubrication, if you will, to deal with civil lawsuits and things like that. Mostly dealing, as I said, with private enterprises who deal in adult entertainment, particularly of the intercourse type, right? So here we have the law in its full and things. Now, to not drag you through a rabbit hole of different things, anything in red here is amended. So basically, the things in red are the things that are updated, right? Apparently, they updated the word nipple to areola because somebody didn't like the fact that somebody thought some kid's going to read this law somewhere and they're going to giggle at the word nipple. That's the only thing. Or they decided, well, it's just probably more professional to call it the areola instead of the nipple, but who knows? Anyways, so the big thing here is, in this section at the bottom, we have, I think it is section 7. So for the purposes of this section, so right here, section 7, or like segment 7, basically is the glossary. And the glossary is kind of hidden amongst everything. Like, this is their, cover letter as to what they're trying to look for and the reason why they're making this law. Basically the premise behind it. You can read that on your own. Basically, this is like another sort of cover thing. And this is going to be effective apparently January 1st of 2024, should it pass, in Montana. But so the interesting thing here, though, is this final definition here. So in this section here of 7, it defines a bunch of things about what a commercial entity is, which is the thing that they're trying to help you sue if they're not doing their due diligence and preventing minors from getting access to their means. Distribute, what it means for this commercial entity to distribute things. Internet, what that is defined as. Material harmful to minors. And then they define D in subsections here. And this is sort of the D here, not the D, but the section D here is kind of the definition glossary at this point. So they're defining material harmful to minors as the following. Basically anything that causes you to lust, blah, 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 anything that exploits here. And then basically they list some subsections here. And so they list transgenderism under basically the section that indicates what they believe are harmful to minors. Now, that is, obviously debatable because the existence, transgenderism, that means that person exists, right? And you're saying that telling somebody that a person exists creates, by this definition, material that is harmful to a minor, right? Because if it's harmful to a minor, most of the people I see yelling about it and getting angry about it are adults. Unless they're trying to say that adults are minors now or some bull crap. Anyways, where is this thing here? I hate this stuff. It's so poorly written. Like, you can, your eyes just bleed over when you read this shit. Anyways, material harmful to minors is defined as the following. So any of the materials that exploits is devoted to or principally consist of descriptions of actual, simulated, or animated displays of or depiction of any of the following in a manner patently offensive with respect to minors. So obviously patent offensive with respect to minors is kind of a weird sort of grayish tone, which is kind of a weird thing to say. What is patently offensive with respect to minors? Do you mean the minor's parent and their judgment? Like that's sort of like, and this is why, this bill, I'm going to just say it out right here. Has a lot less teeth and a lot less negative impact as the Oklahoma bill did. The Oklahoma bill was basically an attack on rural schools, right? It is an attack. It was an attack on rural schools trying to use laws in order to make it so that the state can try to defund rural schools, right? It was a very, very permanent threat, and it was using furries as a means to try to withdraw funding for education to people in the country. That's what the Oklahoma bill was all about at the end of the day. This one, it's about helping parents litigate, basically. It's like if a parent finds that their child went onto some adult website on the internet, it basically is trying to say, well, here are the rules that we're saying that you will help you with civil litigation here if you just pull this thing out and say that you violated subsection D of this section here. So it really does go more after commercial enterprises or things like that. It's harder to... so when things are poorly defined, it's not as harmful, but still, you need to define things properly. You need to define things with an absolutism. Otherwise, people are just going to do this whole Millie Mouth thing. And of course, there's always interpretation things, and that's the problem with the law. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome. Yet the law is grand and finite and absolute. Yet Yet for some odd reason, we have the disclaimer of a casino, right? Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome. And it's kind of why autistic people just don't like freaking law at the times, because it's what the law is, whatever a person decides it to be, right? At sometimes, and it's like, well, that's sort of sovereign citizenish, and it's like the people who are sovereign citizenish these days are in the court system, are in the ones writing the laws, right? It's like, what the heck is going on with this? Like, it's kind of making me pull my hair out a little bit, because like, here it is. It's like, in a manner that's patently offensive with respect to minors. I don't even know what that means. Does a minor even know what that means? Right? Now, patent disrespect to their parents who are trying to protect their minors and raise them in a certain way, or in the way that they wish. Just define it like that, because that makes a lot more sense in any essence. But anyways. As you can see, they added drag to the thing between sodomy and bestiality. Apparently, dressing up as a woman is between sodomy and bestiality. Apparently, I don't know why, but that's the law, or that's the update to the law they're trying to do. And of course, they added acts of transgenderism, which so they actually go through and they don't define what drag means, by the way, which is also another problem, because you added the word drag here, but you don't have an update as to what transgenderism. Interestingly enough, there is this part of the old law that indicated prurient interest, which is the first time I've heard of this term. It says means to have the tendency to excite lustful thoughts. Basically, its sole purpose is to be pornographic. That's basically what it's saying. But the interesting thing about this is that, like, this is part of that older law, right? This is actually part of the original definitions of the law that were prior to being updated. So it's as if the person who was amending this law didn't know what the definition of that particular thing was at the time. So, like, for instance, right here, see how that's in black text, this prurient interest? So to me, that means that any material of the average person applying to the contemporary community standards would find taking the material as a whole with respect to minors is designed to appeal, or is designed to pander to the prurient interest. Now, if you had a dictionary, you can look up what prurient means, and this definition down here is self-explanatory, right? Prurient interest. It's like, yeah, okay, so the person who was amending this law didn't know what prurient interest meant and probably decided to clarify that in the law. And that's great. That's wonderful. Having a clear, defined law so that the common man can read it, I am all for. Thank you for doing that. But there's a problem, and that is this part down here. This is the last definition, by the way, and it was the one that was amended to it. And that is considering what transgenderism is defined as. It means a person who is in the mental state, it means a person being in the mental state of believing the person is transgender or trans species. So the big question here is, what in the hell is trans species? And of course, this is what the big crux of why we're making this video today. Trans species? Like, it's not a word. Now, if you're talking about people who see themselves as non-human, right? People who believe that they are a dog that was born in a man's body, or they have the spirit of an animal in them and they're just wearing a human skin, right? The concept and ideas behind that have a word, but here's the thing, and I'm sure most furries already know what the word is, but the reality is I'm not going to do the lawmaker's job for them. If they're going to try to make laws around, premising these certain things, you need to you need to basically you need to basically do your research on groups of people and then write your laws. You can't just make up new words that have no meaning and then throw it in the law. Which is kind of weird, right? That, like, first off, it's like transgender is not really defined in this law either, right? Like, so they assume that it's a common phrase that everyone knows, which may not be the case. But trans species certainly isn't, because even furries are like, huh? Maybe a furry would throw it out there and people would understand what they meant, but it's definitely not officially defined in the dictionary or anywhere. So if you're going to do that, you need to make a section L, A, B, C, D, H, I, J, K, L, M, a section M that says trans species is this. Because if you don't do that, then what the hell does that mean? Are you going after furries? Just general people who are portraying themselves as animal characters online? Because I can tell you, man, I hate to spoiler alert, but I'm playing a kangaroo online. There's actually, like, this is a human hand. I don't know if you see this. This is a human hand. Because I'm not a kangaroo. I'm not actually a kangaroo. And I don't believe I'm a kangaroo. So, do I fall under the concept of trans species? I'm presenting myself. I'm dressing in kanga drag, as it were, right? I'm dressing up as a kangaroo. Is that drag? But I know I'm not a kangaroo. I'm a human. Is this drag? Because I'm presenting as an animal right now, right? So, because you don't define drag either. So, where does the law begin and where does it end? And it's important that we emphasize these things because Moses, you are not. Lawmakers all look up to Moses because Moses was the original lawmaker, right? But Moses, you're not. You're not defining your words carefully. You're not making sure that, here's the thing. When you put all this ambiguity into the law that's supposed to protect minors, that doesn't really protect minors. It's just words on a page. It doesn't really mean anything. And even kind of weirder than this, right? Even kind of weirder is that how Montana defines when a substantial portion of a website is of adult entertainment quality, right? They say a substantial portion means more than 33.13% of the total material on the website, which is defined as harmful to minors in this section, right? So the big question here then becomes, like, and this is where things like these bottom definitions about trans speciesism or whatever become important. Because if me dressing up in kangaroo drag is going to count as the percentage of total bad material, right? That means are all furry websites going to be under this law, or is it going to be the fact that if we make general artwork that's just cartoon animals, right? This doesn't fall under the purview. And so if we keep it at 34% general, 67% general art, right? Then all of a sudden you don't have to follow the whole this site is for minors thing, right? This is where it gets very weird and very, very things. I would just say this, parents, look out for your kids, but be sure that they know that people different than them exist. Be sure to expose them to different thoughts and different ideals. And by the way, if you want to share your thoughts and ideals about things, far be it from me to get in your way, right? If you say, well, transgender people believe this, but I don't believe that, lay it out, right? Because here's the thing. But here's the thing. You stop at the government. You do not let the government decide, right? You don't let the government get in the way of other people. And that's the problem, is that we are in a society today where half of the country believes that the other half of the country is trying to unleash the wrath of the government upon them. And everybody is acting as if trying to get the government to attack them first is all self-defense. And this is the problem that we beseech ourselves with right now. And that's sort of the frustrating thing to me. But anyways, I'm getting a little off topic and I'm getting a little bit rambly. But anyways, that's my thought on that. This law is raw. It's rotten. Define what this means, because it's not defined in the law. Also, define what drag means, because it's not defined in the law. What does drag mean? What do you mean by that? Basically, that's basically the two big beefs I have with it. And also, can you change the way you guys do things so that Nah, I can't. Here's the thing. As I said, keep yourself out of other people's governments. This is Montana. I'm in New York. But still, like, and I can read it. It's fine. It's just I don't like it when you define everything at the end like it's a glossary instead of putting it at the beginning like it's a thing that needs definition. I like the Oklahoma's format better. Is all I'm saying. It's just that's my preferred thing. But anyways, this has been a layman reading law. Do not take my ramblings or anything as legal advice. Absolutely not. I'm just reading this thing. And for the most part, as I said, mostly harmless. It's just a thing that, allows citizens of Montana to basically take action if they believe that a adult enterprise on the internet is not doing their due diligence to make sure that minors are not being subjected to adult content unwittingly, right? That's all it is. And at the end of the day, so if you're going to poorly define something in a law, I guess, as I said, this is the law to do it. But you really got to make sure that you have your I's crossed and your D's dotted, right? So that, define what trans species means. Am I trans species? Or am I just in drag? Right? What do you think? Leave your comment in this in the section below. Thank you very much for watching. Kick that like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section, or just push it like a normal human being, because we can't be trans species anymore. Otherwise, YouTube might go over the threshold of 33.3%. I doubt that there's that much furry content on YouTube, but who knows? Maybe in the future. I doubt it. That'll never happen. I would die. I would die. I would be like, that's too much content. Too much content. Too much content. Have a good one.